Hey there, y'all. Welcome back to another Tim Talks Christian Rock. Tim Risto here. Hope you're doing awesome, and may God bless your day going forward from here. Listen, today marks the beginning of a new interview series that I'm starting up here on the show. From time to time, I'll be interviewing musicians, artists, possibly even some full bands, maybe some producers, and various others from different walks of life here in the Christian music scene. I've actually interviewed probably somewhere around 1,700 people over the decades in my real life job as a video producer, so this just seemed like a natural extension to go ahead and bring to the show. My guest today is C.G. Ryche of the Christian metal band Ironwrath, often called the cinematic masters of metal, and sometimes compared to a heavy metal Pink Floyd. The band actually began in the 1980s, but had a long hiatus before picking things up again around 2018, and then releasing their latest album, Master Storyteller, in 2023, which is a great album, by the way. Put a link to my review of it down below. You're going to get to know CG and his story, his music, talents, in some detail today, for sure. He's an amazing musician, a drummer and percussionist. Originally started with the band Holy Right in the 80s. He's also a producer and lyricist, but he's also very visually oriented as a storyteller, having produced and directed films and music videos as well. But above all, today you'll discover, of course, that CG is a man of God, whose story of coming to faith in Christ really was born out of the emerging heavy metal music scene of Southern California in the 1980s. So, without further ado, here's my talk with CG Ryche. Enjoy. All right, today I'm talking with the awesome C.G. Ryche from the band Ironwrath. C.G., it is so fantastic to have you here, man. I'm so glad to be able to chat with you today.
I had to pay a lot of money for that intro.
Exactly.
I'm going to be. I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for having me, Tim.
That's great. Well, I want to talk to you about so many things because you are certainly the definition of a creative Christian. And you've got so many talents. I want to cover as many of them as we can today. Certainly talk Ironwrath and Christian rock, but also get into filmmaking. Your writing, of course, with your lyrics. You're a great lyricist in your music. Just so many things. You were born and raised in California, is that correct?
SoCal, man. The glory state. Wonderful governor. Great politics. Love California.
You never moved away from California, did you? You've just been in California.
I moved up to Redding for a little period of time, but California.
Yeah,
awesome. SoCal.
How did you get started in music? I know you got started pretty young.
My parents listened to music, country, never really clicked. I got one of those, remember those like little flat things you push to like tape recorders you could record on? Somehow I got one of those when I was 9. I got a Michael Jackson. The Jackson 5 was my first experience to music, and it was just like, wow, I dig this, man. I mean, Jackson 5s were dope, man. Later on, going to high school, everybody had their peaches, and they'd write their bands on there. And there was a lot of bands I just kept seeing, like Ozzy and Judas Priest. They'd try and draw the logo. And I got into that. And just step back a little bit. I bought an album. I used to go to a skating rink. And I was a speed skater when I was young and competed and all that stuff. And there was 4 songs that I dug, and one of them was Total 4 Africa, Men at Work, Who Could Be Now, whatever, Doom 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 Doom, what, Down Under.
Down Under, yeah.
Yeah, and then God, I forgot. Oh, Peter Gabriel, Shock the Monkey.
Yeah.
That purity, like that's the album that's influenced me more than anything. And then Creatures of the Night, Kiss.
Yes.
And that album, I liked the song, hated the album. But back then, I'd take a shot, I'd put it on my boombox, and it would just, you hear the song and it would just keep going. So I grew accustomed to it, and then I started understanding that style of music. And from there, I went out and bought 2 albums I kept seeing on the Peaches. So one of them was Diary of a Madman by Ozzy Osbourne. The other was Judas Priest, Screaming for Vengeance. Both of them killer albums.
Yeah.
But the Ozzy Osbourne, I was riding somewhere and I was listening to it on the Walkman, and You Can't Kill Rock and Roll came on. And it was just, Randy Rhoads was just, incredibly influential on me, and just Beautiful, beautiful guitarist.
Yeah.
And that song just blew me away. I thought, this is metal. This is, what the hell? I've been misled. I've been lied to. It's a conspiracy.
Right.
And I fell in love with it. And so that's really the genesis of that. And then I got into playing music later on. A friend of mine from the football team invited me to a concert at 1983 US Festival. Never been to a concert. But I knew who, of course, Ozzy and Judas Priest was. So I was like, oh, I'm there. Quiet Riot, I kind of knew because of MTV. I didn't know who nobody knew who Motley Crue was then.
Right.
I didn't know who Van Halen was. It Triumphed, knew Scorpions a little bit, but I was really green. And so we went, and Ozzy Osbourne was the third artist that went up, and Tommy Aldridge was the drummer, and he did a solo. My dad had a drum set around the house about 5 years at that time, and I wasn't allowed to play it because I was told I sucked, and it's probably true. I probably still suck, but the wife
I don't think so.
the wife puts up with it. And I saw him do a solo, and my jaw hit the ground. I'm like, I want to be that guy. I want to do that. And so I came home, took the drums up in the room, and just said, look, if you don't want me playing, you're going to have to physically stop me from playing, because I'm playing the drums, and I'm going for it. And I've never stopped. So that's
Were you self-taught then?
yeah, unfortunately. Seriously, it's not a good thing. Some things you can get away with. Drums, think about it's technique. It's kind of like martial arts. How can a 170-pound guy choke out some 250-pound giant guy? Technique. So drumming's the same. It's if you don't do things right, you unfortunately form a lot of bad habits. And like when I teach drums, I always say, does practice make perfect? Which most people say yes, which would be incorrect. Because if you practice something wrong, you get really good at doing something really bad. And so,
Yeah.
unfortunately, with drumming, it was a two-edged sword. So I formed a lot of bad habits I'm still chipping away at now. But the creativity level was really out there. I really went a lot of places I think most people wouldn't go, creativity-wise, because I didn't understand what you're supposed to do. And the same as a composer, I do a lot of things that some people would look at as technically wrong, but your ears and imagination says it's right. So I listen to those two more than I do the people, what it says in the book. So that's when I didn't study. Later on in percussion, I studied 20 years. I think I played drums for about, oh God, man, maybe 10, 11 years I was on drum kit. And then I got into percussion. And about 3 years into my percussion playing, I got into studying with studied with Ron Powell. We played with Kenny G and Sergio Mendez, Miami Sound Machine, you name it, Madonna. And I studied with him for like 2 years. And that really, so percussion, I'm very very technical, very correct.
Yeah.
And getting back to my first love, drums, which I'm enjoying.
And I don't want to jump too far ahead, but I know you've got a lot of different kind of cultural influences in your playing too. I mean, I hear it on Master Storyteller a lot too. And I know you taught, at least briefly, in Taiwan for a while. And
Yeah.
I wondered if some of those influences, I don't know where else you've been, but where you picked up some of those cultural influences that you could really hear in your drum work and percussion and your choice of instruments even for,
Well, I
percussion.
appreciate that, and it's a really great question from a musical standpoint. And I'll say it like this: when you study music from a Western perspective, a Western palette, it's really, we listen to music because we enjoy it. It makes us feel good. It's a soundtrack to our lives. That's the Western palette approach. But when you go to other countries, it's in their DNA. It's literally, it's just part of who they are. It's part of their culture. Outside of books, they embed their history into their music. Like if you go to Hawaii and you get off and they're playing a Tunisian drum and they put a lei on you, which I play a Tunisian drum, log, it's stupid hard. But that's part of the culture. The dance all means something. Everything is part of the culture. So with that background, when you start studying percussion, you start realizing real quick, this comes from a folklore. It has a history to it. Drum set is about 120 years old right now. and it really evolves off of, Americans being innovative and taking a bunch of different ideas and trying to do it all themselves, compared to percussion, which was more batakata based or batteria based, where you have many players playing a lot of things, and it was used more for rumba, which would be a cultural gathering of the tribe at the end of the night after they've hunted all day. They'd get around and they would tell stories, and they would just play drums and shakers and stuff in the background. And as they told stories, and sometimes somebody would dance, and they would accent the dance, and it was all part of. It was more, part of life. So when you're a white guy from SoCal playing, African and Afro-Cuban instruments, it doesn't really go over too well. And I learned a long time ago. I was at a club, and there was a guy by the name of Victor Pendeja. He was one of the greats in Latin, kind of like Tito Puente or guy, I forget the guy's name. Mondo Peraza, a friend of mine, no longer with us. So I was at a club, and they're playing a wajida, which is real soul. It wasn't a wajida, it was a bolero. Boom, rap, boom, 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 rap, boom, 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 right?
Yeah.
And it's real slight little horn in there, and it's beautiful. A small little jazz club. And so they're playing, and the bongo, the boom, 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 the boom is on the conga, boom, boom, and the beam, the higher one, is on the bongo, boom, boom, which is on the four, so it's E or and, four, and. So he's playing boom, 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 right? And then out of nowhere, it's all quiet, everybody's just like mellowing out. And he's black, waka-ka-to-bagoom. And everybody's like, what the hell? What, and then he just looks like, yeah, right? If I did that, the white boy, I would have got my butt beat in the alley. You can't do that. But
Right.
because you're the guy and you understand, you get away with anything.
Yeah.
I mean, if Scorsese shot everything upside down with Vaseline on the lens, there'd be a bunch of filmmakers going out and doing it.
Yeah,
Because it's
exactly.
Scorsese. He's doing it. He's not an idiot. There's something behind it.
Yeah.
So with that understanding, if you know what you're doing, you can get away with a lot. And then two, to take this full circle, I got hired at Disney to perform on floats. And I was one of 12 drummers. I mean, out of hundreds of drummers, I got the gig, but I was one of 12 drummers. There was two of us that could actually play all the floats. Everybody else could play the Afro-Cuban float, the African float, or the Japanese float. So I got shuffled around on the floats, and then one day I was on the taiko. There's a giant taiko on the side of the thing, and of course I studied to learn, so I didn't. But I remember we combined, and the float was really when Disney opened, was about Disney California, was about celebrating culture, and that particular float, people, when you pass Japanese people or people from China or Asia, you'd see the sense of pride well up in them, and I thought, oh, okay, now I'm starting to understand that I'm dealing with people's culture. And if I play it wrong or I don't, I'm insulting who they are, because it's not just music they listen to.
Yeah.
It's part of their being.
Yeah.
So from all those things put together, I took it upon myself. It's not a wrong or a right thing, but for me, it was a personal choice to really learn the cultures and learn the instruments and the folklore. So I had a great understanding of it. And I could, if somebody saw me play, I would bring pride to the dojo.
Yeah.
And then also, it helped me really understand the different rhythms, which is a whole other thing, because it's kind of like a dialect. If we have a line, let's say this is a scene in a movie, and your line is, "Hey, CG, how you doing today?" It's not telling you much, because who are you? Where are you from? What's your dialect? Right? If you're from New York, it's going to be different than from Australia,
Texas. Yeah.
Texas, California, Canada. So music's like that, believe it or not. There's a dialect, even within a Western palette. Metal compared to rock, compared to funk, pop, You can play the same beat one, in all of those, you're going to find a prominent beat, but it's played different. It sounds different. It feels different because it has a dialect to it.
Yeah.
So it's a very long answer, but a very good answer to that question for me, that of why I learned what I learned and how it influenced me. And then once you really understand the different cultures and why, what, and just how that feels and approaches, then when you jump on something like, metal or whatever you do, you can always look at the instrument, which is just a tool, but you can approach dialects in a different way. And so
I love that. That's a fabulous answer. And I get a great sense already for your passion for music too. I mean, that just comes across so clearly. You've learned so much about it, played so much, obviously, too. That's fabulous. I love that. We're going to come back to some of that in a minute. Let's move quickly to how did you get into metal music? Then what was your first band? Was it Holy Right, or were there some other bands before that you got involved with?
When I started playing drums, I was not a Christian.
Yeah.
And I realized real quick, and I was a pothead, man.
Yeah.
I mean, and I smoked constantly, and I realized right off the bat there was a creativity level that would come when I was high. Yeah. And I understood that very quickly. Yeah. And I knew it was from somewhere else, and I didn't. It's like, hey, I'm going to use this. So I would get high, I would record myself playing, and then I would listen back and study those licks and learn them and bring them in. Some of what I said earlier, very different creativity-wise and how I approach things.
Yeah.
And there was a time, in my head, I felt I was approached by the devil that just said, look, you like drums? Okay, man. I'll tell you what, I'll make you one of the most famous drummers in the world. I'll make you big. I'll take you to heights you have no idea about. Just give your soul to me, and play for me, and I'll take care of you. And I was just like, and I heard it pretty plain as day. It was in my head. It wasn't like an audible thing. Right. And I said to myself, let me think about it. Let me think about it for a minute. And I just felt, no, I'm going to do this on my own. And so no, not going to happen.
Did you grow up in a faith house?
No. I had no idea about Jesus, nothing. Yeah. So, but, there was some issues. If you almost die, you scream to God, whether you know God or not, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the veil comes out. So it's a situation like that when I was a kid, and some things that transpired through my life. But no, I knew nothing about God. And as far as I had a basic worldly view, if you're a good person, you go to heaven. You're a bad person, you go to hell. Everybody knows there's a God. Everybody knows that there's a heaven. Everybody believes there's something after, you die. Everybody's got their own opinion and whatever. Right. Yeah. And so anyways, with that background of that, I became my mom, I came home on angel dust one day, and I guess that didn't go over real good.
Imagine not.
So she wanted me off drugs, and she didn't know about God, but she just thought, hey, I got to get this guy to church. Yeah. And my buddy and me, we went up in the groves, and we were smoking weed, man. Yeah. And he wasn't a Christian, but he goes, hey, man, check this out. And it was like a chick track. And it told a story about a guy that died, went to hell, and demons were scraping him. And then he comes back to life. He's like, oh, my God, I don't want to go back there. It freaked the hell out of me. And I'm reading it, and all of a sudden, the sky started going, bop, 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 bop. It wasn't the sky. It was me on drugs. And just red dots, bop, 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 bop. And I hit the ground, vertigo. And I'm like, whoa, and it was crazy. And so, but he let me keep the track, and it was real. Whatever I read, I believe that was real. And so that was that. And I think a week later, I went to a Ronnie James Dio concert, and I dropped some acid, smoked a bunch of Thai bud, got drunk, and went in, to this concert. Right. And when I came out, there were these guys just like disciples, man. And I saw one with a giant cross. I thought, man, it's Moses, dude. I'm going to talk to Moses, man. What's up, Moses? Yeah, rock and roll. And I'm out of my mind, man. Right. And the guy goes, hey, man, nice to meet you, man. You enjoy the concert? Cool, man. Let me give you this track. Rock and roll, yeah. I take it and put it in my pocket. Don't even know I have it. Yeah. 2 days later, I find it in my pocket. and I read it. And it was a 4-square track, much more balanced scripture.
Yeah.
And there was a saying in there. It's not scripture, but the principle is that if I would have been the only one that would have sinned, Jesus still would have died for me. And that hit me like a rock, man. Because I never viewed myself as being that special. I still don't. And why would Jesus care enough about me? There's better people in the world than me. You know, if you're going to go die for somebody like that's actually worth something.
So that really personalized it for you.
Oh yeah, who's Jesus? Yeah. Where'd this guy come from? Nobody told me about it. Jesus, man. Yeah. You know, I didn't know that. This whole thing was a revelation to me. It's like, why didn't somebody tell me this? Right. You know, I didn't know, and so I said, look, Jesus, you give your life to me, for me, when I don't even know you. Yeah. Okay, done. I'll give my life to you. I owe you everything. Yeah. So, but I was on smoking drugs and doing cocaine, and so it's like, let me get off this stuff first. Yeah. You know, because I knew in my head, I was smart enough to know I can't be doing cocaine and walking with Jesus.
Doesn't go together very well.
So about 2 weeks in, I'm driving back from band practice high, and somebody like runs a stop sign and almost T-bones me. Yeah. And I just barely make it, and I realized Satan's trying to snuff me out. If I got killed, I would have went to hell, because I haven't fully given him my life, because I'm waiting to get off drugs. I thought, Lord, if you let me go home, if you let me make it home, I'll give my life to you. Which is stupid. I should say, right? I should pull the call right there. Hey, let's do it now. I got home, and I ran upstairs, and I got on my knees. I said, Lord, okay, I give my life to you. And I remember the next day, it was like the scales fell off my eyes, and everything had changed. Wow. 6 months later, I'm still in that secular band. And that band was my first band. There was another band, I think we played Flock of Seagulls and something else up in my room for like 2 weeks. But I won't the other band was in Muscoy, California, with bad part of town. And this guy was major druggie. The bass player, I mean, drugs were given to me free. I mean, just all the time. From the minute I woke up, whenever there was always drugs in my hand, I didn't pay for anything. And the people coming by to watch the band would always bring in cocaine and speed and, everything. So it just, so I was around that, and I quit to cold turkey. And they're like, oh, come on, man. You want to pass the bong around? And, nah, I'm not going to do it, man. Oh, come on, man. Do you remember the good times? Remember those good times we used to have? It's like, and that's not weighing on you. I have nobody around me that's a Christian. I'm reading the Bible. I'm not understanding it all. I'm thinking I need to cut my ear off so, my grandpa, part of his body doesn't burn in hell. I was confused, and I'm doing the best I can. Right. And it wasn't making a lot of sense. And so about 6 months in, I fell back in. Yeah. And I remember it was like I didn't have the power. And the Bible talks about this, Jeremiah 13:23. Uh-huh. Can an Ethiopian change his skin, or can a leopard change his spots? How can you do good as accustomed to doing evil? Right. And it's true. I didn't have the power. It's like my hand just took it, and then I just, within a couple of weeks, I was in juvenile hall, man. Oh, man. It took like no time. So when I got out of there, that's when my mom's like, I came home an angel and she, all right, this got to change. So she started telling me about church. So I'm like, yeah, I'll go to church. Yeah. I'll go to church. But of course, something always comes up on Sunday. Right. And finally, my grandpa stepped up and said, I'll take him. And took me to church. And it was like, it was Redlands Calvary Chapel and Don McClure back in the day. Yeah. And it's like he knew I was coming. God breathed him on everything that was going on in my life, what I needed to hear. And the message was tailored for me. And I knew it. I'm just like, whoa. And I'm like, okay, I'm done. But once I started going to church, I had the power now. Yeah. Because it's like if you take a coal out of a barbecue instead by itself, it doesn't matter how good of a coal, it's going to go cold.
You had met Jesus, but you were still trying to do it all on your own.
I was by myself. I didn't have any influence or people that iron sharpen iron stuff, and so once I got to church, then I had that. It wasn't the church; it was that I was around believers. I was in the Word of God, which I was before, but now I'm hearing from somebody who's a little more schooled in the Scripture. So I'm not cutting my ear off or doing something stupid. Right. And then through time, then you start taking the Word and studying on your own, not believing everything everyone says, but take it with willingness, and then go study, make sure it's true. I had no place to practice at the time. And Redlands County Chapel let me bring my drums, and there was a front building detached to the old packing house. And with packing house was Striper first played. That's where they got their big start.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So the same place that I got my start, and they had a building in front. They had a basement where they stored them. They let me go down there. Gave me a key. Go ahead, put your drum down there. And I did. I was down there, and so people up there knew I was down there. And one guy came up to me once and goes, "You're a good drummer, man. Why don't you play for God?" And I said, "I'd love to play for God, man, but I got this commitment. I've put 2 years in on this band. I can't just uproot." And this guy goes, "Why not?" And so you go home, you start thinking about that, and I'm like, "Why am I not playing for God? I should be playing for God." So that's why I changed it. So I started playing for God, and I quit the band. They held my drums hostage, wouldn't let them go. I finally got them back, and then I brought my drums in for a youth group worship team thing. I think that's what it was. And then that's when I got the thing. So then I had no place to bring my drums because they were at that place. So that's when they let me put them downstairs. So.
And how old were you again? And when was this about?
And I first accepted God when I was 16, fell back in there. And then it was about a 6-month gap from when I fell to where I was in juvenile hall, and I finally ended up at church. So I think I was around 17, late 16s, early 17s when I really got it together. And I never went back since. Never, even, no, I've been walking with the Lord ever since.
That's fabulous.
And then I got in where I got to Ironwrath. You want to hear that story?
Yes.
Because I was early as a Christian at Redlands Calvary in the youth group. And I was a wild man. I was like Uncle Ted Nugent, crazy guy. And a lot of the more grounded kids kind of took me under their wing, realized that, hey, this kid could have some potential. Right. Let's get him worked in. And so they took me to they go, "You want to go see a concert?" Yeah. So we went to this concert, and there was like 4 local bands, and one of them was Holy Right. And first 2 bands, they were bad. And then Holy Right got up there, and the guitarist, I just thought, wow, that guy's good, man. And the drummer, I know him now, he's a great drummer now. But back then, I was arrogant. It's like, hey, that good drummer. I said, "Lord, you put me in a band like that, I could shape them up. We could do something." Yeah. And I met the guitarist afterwards, which is Sean.
Sean Silas. Yeah.
Sean Silas. This is like early '86, and then within 2 months, he called me and go. The singer of the band, Holy Right, called me and goes, "Hey man, our drummer, he doesn't have a drum kit right now. He's getting a new one. Can we borrow your drums?" I had even back then, it was probably $8,000 drum set.
Nice.
I'm like, yeah, sure. I'm like, wow, they're gonna use my drum set. It's crazy. Like that was a dumb thing to do, but it was the right thing to do at the time. So I bring the drum set, and so I'm like, "Can I stay and watch practice?" They go, "Of course you can." And so we're waiting. The drummer's not showing up. And Sean's like, "You want to jam?" I go, "Yeah." So we jammed for like 2 hours, and it was just like whoosh. And then the drummer showed up, and it. So, anyways, I'm like, "Hey,
awesome.
Here's the keys to the house, man. Have fun." And then I got a call later that week. "Hey, a drummer quit. Do you want the gig?" And I'm like, "Wow, yes, I want the gig." And so that's how I got in Holy Right. And within 2 weeks, I came in, and then they had a band meeting, and they brought me to the band meeting. They go, "Look, bro, you're a good drummer, but you're a freaking wild man. You got to calm down. You need to play more like our old drummer." And I'm like, "Old drummer? Why am I here? If you want the old drummer, you should have kept him. Yeah. You got me now, dude. You're set." Cocky arrogant attitude. And they're like, "Look, either you play like the old drummer or you're out of the band.
Yeah.
And so I took it hard. I'm like, and so I left, and my buddy, who was wise, a friend of my age at the time, he goes, look, man, who gave you this talent you have? I said, God gave it to me. What do you mean? He goes, well, God gave you this talent, then it's his, right? I said, yeah. He goes, well, if he wants you to play in his band and play like that other drummer, who are you to stand in the way? And I'm like, what do you know? But that stuck with me, and I'm like, Lloyd said, what are you going to do, dude? Is it your talent or is it mine? And I go, okay, I get it. So I called him. I go, okay, whatever you want me to do, I'll do. Tell me what the old drummer did, I'll do it. No strings attached.
Wow.
So I'm like, cool. So that's how I got the gig and stayed in the band. And within another week, we did a concert, and my drumming went right back to where it was. I think I played straight for like 2 weeks, and then it was just once I said it, they kind of bent. They're like, oh, he's cool now, and then all of a sudden, and we did our first
hard
concert.
To change old habits, right?
Yeah, well, I was creative. I didn't want to, boom, bap, boom, which I think is a good way to go because that's your job as a drummer. When it's correct, but not back then. And I had to do a lick like every other bar, just in case I died. I wanted to make sure you knew I was a good drummer, and God forbid. And we did a concert like 2 or 3 weeks later, and it was just a school of people, and I had a line of people. I did a 12-minute drum solo. I've been working at that thing for God knows how long, and this is my opportunity. I wanted to let everyone know everything I've been. It was crazy. So anyway,
awesome.
And I'm probably about 3 years into my playing at this time with Holy Right, and within I think 6 weeks from that first gig, we were in the studio cutting "Stand as One," and back then the singer, I don't want to throw shade on him or anything like that, but he really controlled the project and wasn't the right guy to be doing so, and so. We got in there, we recorded everything, and it wasn't bad, the recording. My timing was atrocious. I didn't know how to work with the click, and I wasn't the same guy I am now. But the studio guy was on coke. And I guess after we left and tracked everything, the guy, him and Keith got it, and I mean, the mix was just atrocious. Yeah. I mean, the vocals are probably 20 dB outside the mix where they should be. The vocals aren't good to begin with. The songs aren't bad. I think Sean wrote some really good stuff, but it just wasn't. It just wasn't produced, and the mix was so bad. Yeah. And we signed to Erica Records, which is good. They really wanted to invest in us and push us, but Keith turned them down, and I found that out like 3 years ago from Steve. And I was like, what? So so Only Right could have really pushed and I think if we would have pushed and went fucking live, we were tearing it up. Yeah. And if we would have got like a producer, someone that really knew, could have stepped in back then and for an album too, maybe X the singer, bring in a better singer, and then really record that album. That's kind of what happened to Guardian. I mean, they had singing it was what it was, and then all of a sudden they got Jamie, and it changed everything. I was at the show in Hollywood. Me and Sean went down to support them when they got signed, and we stood right behind the A&R guys and go, oh my God, this is the greatest band I've ever heard in my life. Holy crap. We just sat there the whole concert and just talked to each other loud right in those guys' ears, just to help our brothers, hopefully persuade, not like they needed because they were a good band.
Right.
But
awesome.
Anyways, that's the story. And then from there, 2 years
before
in,
we leave that, Holy Right, that was the only album y'all recorded, right? Was Stand as One?
That's my second band, Stand as One. That's it. We never went beyond that.
Any chance we'll see a re-release of that remastered? Do the masters still exist, or could it be remixed or anything like that?
They could be. Yeah. We've talked about Sean's really hyped up on that idea. Yeah. And I would love to set the record straight and at least mix it good. I would even like to bring in a real vocalist and just do it right. Yeah. And just remix, but even remixing what's there would be good. But you got to think, how much time and effort is that? Yeah. What is the purpose? You know, I don't really have any ownership in the Holy Right except for the drumming.
Yeah.
All the vocals were written by Keith, so he has ownership of those.
Okay.
And then the music was written, mostly by Sean, and a lot of it existed in a band called Free Will prior to Holy Right. So just legally getting into it, and we don't have the masters. Keith has the masters. I got the masters of the old Ironwrath, Circle of Iron, which we're actually selling on our website. So we went to
Really?
yeah. It's
I'll have to
actual.
put a
I mean,
link an envelope
Yeah.
for that. That's pretty cool.
And then we got the 93 version. I got 2-inch right under there. We
Nice.
recorded Rick Thompson's studio from Sweet Comfort, good friend of mine. But
Sweet.
yeah, but I mean, if the legal stuff could get, there's nobody pushing, there's nobody anything, but it's just why, it would make what 100, 200 people happy.
Yeah.
It's like. Ironwrath, we're really going to try and conquer the world here, and I don't really want to live in the past.
Yeah.
But if it came and we got the masters, I mean, we have a recording studio. We could digitize and look at the files and clean it up and get it to where it at least sounded better. Like I said, I'd really love to just keep the vocals the same, but just get a real vocalist.
Yeah.
To sing on that, and then then re-release that. I think that'd be great, but I'd have to have the masters and this and that. And to be honest with you, I've reached out a little bit. Sean's got more connections. Sean knows who has them, and it just hasn't got them. Yeah. I've reached out to that person, not to get the master, but to start working towards that. And a voice message that you leave ends up in a text that has nothing to do with it. And some people they're just scared to get on the phone.
Right.
So I don't. It really looks unlikely. I would never say never. But if we had the masters and there was a non-issue with doing it, there's a good chance we could do something like that. But I don't know. Does it really help Ironwrath? Does it have anything to do with Ironwrath? It's just a piece of history. It'd be a separate project that really, because then you do that, then everybody's like, you got to play, and it's like I ain't doing that.
Exactly. Yeah, where would it lead? And that's true. You're moving forward with Ironwrath.
And I don't even know what Erica Records might have some tie to it as well.
True.
So those are the real things that we've had open discussions in depth, me, Sean, and Steve about this particular thing, and these are the things that kind of come up from the business side that go. That's what shines the shade on it. So, but if all that was gone and we had the masters, I mean, we could take away at it. Why not?
Yeah. 3 of you guys from Holy Right went on to form Ironwrath, correct? So how did that come about?
It came about Sanctuary International, which wasn't Sanctuary International. It was Bob out in Redondo Beach at the time. Had a big meeting of the minds. I don't even remember it, but it was like all the bands, Holy Soldier and Deliverance and everybody that's a Christian band from in the day. They were pretty much here in Southern California. Yeah. We were all from Whittier to Hollywood to Riverside. We were all in 50 minutes from each other. Yeah. And we went to this big meeting of the minds, and Holy Right was always kind of like a black sheep, in my opinion, just because I think Keith, the lead singer, just really brought a lot of shade on the band because his words were big, but his actions were very suspect, to say the least. Much less, there was legal issues and stuff like that were going on, which I don't want to get into.
Right.
And we were at this meeting of the minds of the sanctuary, and a bunch of people came up to us. I didn't know that we'd really know who we were. I mean, Holy Right was big. Believe it or not, in Southern California, we were big. We weren't part of the popular crowd, but people knew who we were. We had people from Judas Priest and, Kiss and all kinds of people, coming and watching us play on a normal basis. Yeah. A lot of these people from Sanctuary came up and, we love you guys. You and the guitarist, man, you guys are good. Why are you in that band? And I was like, what do you mean, why are we in the band? What's wrong with the band? And they're like, man, the singer, you guys, the band's great, but you, the singer, I don't know. You guys need to get away. And it was just like multiple people throughout that whole event that just said the same thing. And I came home and prayed about it. I'm like, Lord, how are we supposed to witness or be a light in the world if everyone thinks we're nefarious in some fashion. So I talked to the guys and said, guys, I think we need to part ways with the singer because I think it would be a null and void if we don't.
Yeah.
And they agreed, and so we had a meeting, and we booted the singer. And once we did that, we were singerless, but we had a vision, so we thought, well, let's go more progressive. Let's definitely get more prog. Let's go more dark. Let's go more deep, and bands like Queen's Ryche were big on our scope at the time, Michael Schenker Group, a lot of the shrapnel guys, I was listening to, Sean was listening to. Pink Floyd was always in the rafters. Yeah. So that's probably one of the biggest influences on Ironwrath, even to this day.
Yes.
And moving forward, we'll be going more Floyd.
I love that. I'm a fan of that.
Oh yeah, me too. So that's the genesis of Ironwrath, and so the music, we took a lot of Holy Ryche stuff that we wrote. We kind of just shaped it a little bit. Some of it we left it like it is.
Where'd the band name come from?
We put names in a hat. Wanted to sound rock and roll.
Yeah.
And Ironwrath seemed to stick. Kind of came from the idea that iron is a metal of war, right? Reign with an iron fist, or even in the Bible you read about iron, being
being
forged. Metal of war.
Yeah.
So, and then you have bands like Iron Maiden. It just sounds metal.
It does.
So,
definitely.
But the idea of war, we like that. Yeah. And then Wrath, it was our disdain, for the sin and tyranny of the world. Mm-hmm. So you put those two names together, it's we've come to wage war on the sin and tyranny of the world. We've come to kick the hornet's nest. We've come to get in a fist fight. And which was Ironwrath's motto. We kind of said, we're not playing churches, man. We're going to go play juvenile hall. We're going to go play boys' homes. We're going to go play secular clubs where people are high on drugs. We're going to do that. And we did. And we didn't play any church. Well, Holy Ryche, we played Harvest. We played all kinds. We did. Ironwrath did play Cornerstone, though. We played Cornerstone in 1989.
Oh, sweet.
And, we weren't out to fluff the wings of the Christians. We were out to reach people that didn't know Jesus. Like, I didn't know Jesus, and nobody told me. Well, let's go tell those people. They can make their decision there. And so that's what we did.
That's awesome.
And then the music became much more theatrical, and we were really in our birthplace. And I think God took Ironwrath 2 years in, and then, it just disbanded, not on bad reasons for any way, shape, or form. But Steve had some other stuff to attend to. Sean was really caught up in a lot of things, and me, I work with, God sometimes will shape your life by your finances, because sometimes I'm not so doing true. That, and there's no big fish, on Foothill Boulevard. So instead, he just makes you go broke and shoves you that way. Yeah. So he stuck me up in Redding, California, and that's why I really became a freelance musician. I came down. I started studying production with a guy by the name of Paul Tucker, who worked with the Jacksons, Anita Baker, and he really took me under his wing because I really wanted to learn session drumming and just how can I be a better drummer. Yeah. And he took me under his wing, and once I started, and he would talk to me from a producer standpoint. I'm like, okay, let's just skip the drums. Just talk to me. Let's learn this production because this is fascinating. Yeah. And I really learned structure and all this stuff. And then when I left him, then I really started just studying on my own, all the greats, Dave Foster, Mutt Lange, Quincy Jones, Hugh Polygram, Chris Hughes, just a lot of greats, man, and great music. Forget genres. I'm gonna listen to Hall & Oates. I'm gonna listen to whoever I get my hands on and break down the what are they doing? Reverse engineer everything. So I did that for about 5 years, man.
So you use that time to really hone your craft and just learn and grow
that was the
as
first,
an artist.
Yeah, I can map it out. I started there, and people were asking me to produce them. A buddy of mine knew I was doing all this, and he gave me a Mac, a single Mac with the floppy disk. Up in that cupboard, I got a bunch of floppy disks. I used to have the Mac. Right. I got rid of it. I should have kept it. I think it's probably worth money. But
Apple IIe or something like that.
Yeah, you stick the floppy in.
Yeah.
But gave me that so I could work on my production. And then I got like a quadricent or some units that I got over there. Now everything's virtual, but I got you can't see the cupboard, but I got cupboards full of this stuff.
Yeah.
And so that taught me how to program. So now I became a composer. I learned how to do that, which was never intentional. So I went from producing to working on my producing by composing, and then composing. Then I started writing for some like TV show type stuff and some different things. It's trying to sell songs to artists, and I was hyped up on being a producer, and then from there, I started becoming a freelance percussionist, and I started playing with bigger artists, and by doing that, and my background of studying correctly, I really understood how to put together percussion, and I've always understood showmanship. You never go to hear a show; you go to see a show. So the visual, I think, is a very important aesthetic to the live performance, and so from there, I started learning stage production and all this stuff. And my background in construction work, my dad ran his own company, so I was a foreman at a very early age. So I always understood blueprints, logistics, all that. So God had shaped all this to me, and then I got into we were doing like big stuff. Got signed with Doc McGee with a band called Benesse, which is like a nouveau flamenco artist, and I really helped put him on the map in a lot of ways. He's very talented on his own, but a lot of my ideas and really helped get us there together. We went from the street corners being signed with William Morris Agency and Doc McGee and touring the world and making really good money doing it. And I became like a face of the percussion drummer guy. That really didn't exist. You had percussionists that were great, single, or you had two percussionists that were great, like Carl and Raul from Santana, friends of mine. Raul's also no longer with us. But you didn't have a drummer percussionist guy. So we kind of became that face for, our endorsers, and it was big. And then from there, because Benesse was doing all this big stuff, I had capabilities for Remo with my endorsements. So I was choreographing all these big drum numbers, and I could get all these big drums. So I became the guy for drum choreography. So now I'm getting calls from like Mike Eisner of Walt Disney Company, Pixar, HP, computer, all kinds of stuff to choreograph, Cirque du Soleil type shows.
Yeah.
And I became that guy.
Did that lead into Echoes of Silence?
Yes. And the way that led into that, and that name is everything I just described. It'll come together here in a second.
Yeah.
Is we were on tour. We were going on tour with Doc McGee. Or Doc McGee sent us a tour. I think it was called Nights of Fire. We just released it on PBS with Benesse. I think this is 2005, 2006. And the tour kept. We were gigging like 5-6 days a week. We were gigging like crazy, and I was making great money. When the tour came up, there a lot of pre-production had to happen. That got cut down to one, and then we were going on tour. And so the money was there, but then the tour got bumped back 2 months. So you can't fill that 2 months that because everything books 2-3 months out.
Right.
And so that was gone, and then that bumped back, and the whole tour bumped back like 7 months, kept bumping back, and left me broke. We had to take a second out of the house. It just wasn't working, and it was a big issue. And so I thought, I got all this music that I've done for for short films. I've been composing for short films and for artists and stuff. I got all this music just sitting there. I could probably put an album together. I got enough showmanship. I think I could go out and play by myself. I'm famous enough at this point too. I could draw people, and I'll create my own album, and I'll go out and play by myself, and hopefully be able to survive when we're not touring, and because I can get the gigs myself. And so that's what I did. I put it together like in 4 weeks. I stayed up like literally 4 hours of sleep is all I got, and I just family go to bed at 10. I would stay up to 4 in the morning. I'd get back up at 8. I'd work to whatever, and until I had to go to the gig, or I wasn't gigging. That's all I did for 4 weeks. Put together an album. I called it X. And I called it X because I didn't want nobody to know. Because the artist found out, maybe he'd fire me. Because he'd get very insecure.
Yeah.
So I put this together, and I started playing it. We were selling like 51 CDs, man, and it was just at $20 a whack. It's like $1,000. And I'm going, okay, this works, man. I'm gonna put another album out. So I started. I called that one "Echoes of Silence." And when I was in the middle of working on it, a guy came up to me in Palm Springs when I was playing, and he bought my album. And he was very complimentary towards me. And he was somebody, I didn't know who, but you could tell. A couple of weeks later, I'm playing the same place, and he comes up to me and goes, "Look, man, I love your album." He said, "You don't know who I am, but I got connections, and I want to put you on a PBS special." I said, "Not now. It'll be a year or two from now. But you're amazing. Your music is just incredible." And I thought in the back of my head, I'm like, this guy thinks I'm an artist. I'm just trying to survive out here, man. And at that moment, I felt God tap me on the shoulder and said, this whole journey that I just took 2 hours to tell you, that my whole journey was meant for this time right now, for what you're doing, what you're going to be doing. You are a solo artist. I needed you to learn all this, the composing, the producing, the stage production, how to work with others. I need you to learn all this in studio and everything, recording for this time. And I was like, wow. Because I always looked at myself as being, the drummer that plays with Madonna, or the drummer, or the stage production network behind this show that these executive producers and this artist are starring in, or I was always I was the talented guy that was helping someone else get to their goal, not being the guy. And God told me that, and I'm like, okay. And so when I was working on it, that became the name of Echoes of Silence. And because it was the echoes of the silence that God, and there was all these things that I was doing that people knew was not the plan. That was just working and to get to where God was intending me to go. And you're going to hear the echoes of my silence. And on that song, there's a voice, and it's my son when he was a kid, and it's me, and I don't remember what I said, but there's a bridge, and actually that song is my interpretation of The Great Gig in the Sky by Floyd. There's no words. It's just whoa, the female thing, and then there's a Gregorian chant thing. But yeah, that was kind of that. And
your homage to Floyd there.
Yeah, in my own way.
Yeah.
And but there's a voice in there, and it's like, and I don't remember what I say, but something like, follow your dreams. And it's like the kid says, I follow my dreams, and I go, it's forbidden. Why? Because blah blah blah. And it's like no, I've called you to do this. It's like, go do it. It's in there, and I forgot what I said. It's so long ago. But that's why that album's called Echoes of Silence, because it was embodying as an artist, how you were seeing all the glimmers of it, but it was silent.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden it's like, no, God meant all that for me to be a solo artist. And that's when I really jumped into that. And I put, later on, I took my album X and I combined it with Echoes of Silence, took the best of both worlds, because both of those albums were made under a false pretense. They were made under the idea of trying to have product to sell to make money. Right. Even Echoes of Silence, when I named it that, it was still in the process of that. It wasn't until I come to the album Passages that was written as an artist. and Imaginarium also was written as an artist. And then another album I've been sitting on. It's almost done. I just got to work on it. It's called Horizons, and that album's incredible. It's out there stuff, man. It's just really ethereal. I mean, it makes you feel like Floyd. That's how people would come up. They go, man, you make me feel like I'm on drugs listening to your music, which is good because that's really what I'm trying to tap into your imagination. I'm trying to get you to go somewhere. And
I'd love to hear that one. You need to finish that one. That's a solo project, right?
It's a solo project, yeah. It's
that'd be awesome.
Well,
really I know, cool. Like Jimmy P. Brown has is it the Jupiter 6 project? It's got a lot of Floyd influences too that he did. There's not enough Floyd homages in Christian music now. So
I actually did. On my passage album, I actually did a cover. I did "Wish You Were Here."
Yeah.
Just because I loved it. I did it with a talking drum that went back there, which you hear like on Peter Gabriel, "In Your Eyes." Nice. It did this cool little thing. I always wanted, it was cool. So,
What's your favorite Floyd album? Just as a quick aside.
Oh God, I don't. No. I would probably reflect towards, even though there's so much negativity surrounding the production of it. I really love The Wall. Yeah. I mean, songs like Mother and Blue Sky. Mm-hmm. Those are songs that really gravitate me. Comfortably Numb, of course.
Yeah. Classic guitar song.
I love that album, but Dark Side of the Moon, Wish You Were Here. Mm-hmm. Even some numbers on Final Cut. I know this is all Roger stuff, but I love Roger. But without David, there is no Roger. And without Bob Ezra in the studio, you still don't have that. Or Alan Parsons. You talk about Great Gig in the Sky. I don't know if you know the story. When they were working on that album, they came in to do the session. They hired 3 really good backups, for the song in case they needed them. And back then, there was money flowing, especially with Floyd. So, it was just stupid the stuff they did. But they get there, and Alan's, they're going, okay, where's the lyrics? Who's singing? They go, oh man, we haven't wrote the lyrics yet, man. And he goes, dude, the time is ticking. We have deadlines. Right. We gotta go. Yeah. And they're like, So he went up to the backup singer. He goes, look, listen to the music. I don't want to hear a word. Just whoa, whoa, whoa. Just go nuts. I'll point to you, then I'll point to you, then I'll point to you, and just go for it.
Yeah.
That's the Great Gig in the Sky. And we give Floyd so much reverence for that. They were out of their minds, blowing it. They're like Brando in Apocalypse Now. The fear. Giant cue cards ruining the set. It's genius at the end, but man, it was not a pretty thing.
Well, but that's Dark Side of the Moon was such a produced album too. So much was developed in post, you could say, in the studio, in the editing and production of that it was really an evolved album rather than something that was just played outright. It's interesting about that.
Well, it's so technical too. The stuff they did was just they were pushing the envelope. Them and Queen, they were doing stuff that just technically was hard to do. It's kind of like Lucas with film. He was doing stuff that couldn't be done. That's what those bands were doing. Exactly. And but it's just the insight and the emotion. I mean, they're just breaking rules and just going into a place that's like, which is Floyd. I mean, most people don't realize this, but the whole psychedelic color hallucination, that really comes from Floyd. Mm-hmm. Because Floyd, instead of spending the little money they had way back in the day with Sid Barrett on a sound guy to make him sound good, they would hire a light guy that would take oils in front of a light and make all these psychedelic colors, and why people are taking experimental drugs and that whole thing. Floyd kind of ushered that in. Not that was a good thing, but the whole tie-dye, psychedelic colors, and Ironwrath used a lot of that stuff. In Master Storyteller film, there's
let's talk about that. Master Storyteller, great album. So there was this long hiatus really with Ironwrath. However many years it was. We came back in about 2019 or 2018, I guess you kind of reformed.
2018 where we decided to do the album. We took a stab at it, and it just financially, I was way behind the eight ball. I couldn't even. I mean, I was depressed, and I couldn't focus. And yeah, so we didn't get much done. It wasn't until late 2020 the money came in, and so we could go to work.
Why did you guys decide to start up then? What was kind of the impetus?
Sean never stopped bugging me, and so blame him. But I was a successful solo career. Why would I come back and do a nostalgic metal thing? I don't need to do that. And there's a guy from Europe named Olaf, and that was bugging Sean on Facebook. I'll pay for it. I'll pay for it. And I was financially broke. I was so bad, and I'd even get a gig and pay like $12,000. That money was gone before I'd even see it. That's how bad the hole. I almost lost my house like 12 times. And when you got a family, it hurts you as a person. It really, but God sustained us. And so this came around. I thought they gave us just no money, but it would pay a bill, and I had to do it. So I thought, okay, we'll do it. There's no way. I mean, we invested about $60,000 to get done with Master Storyteller. Wow. That wasn't even a fraction of that money that we got. The money we got was nothing, and so we got about 6 songs in, and it just wasn't, whatever. So later on, we came back about towards the end of 2020 when we fired it up.
Yeah, awesome. Well, Master Storyteller is an incredible album. How did that concept develop? And then I want to talk a little bit too about your writing, because as a lyricist and a musician, I mean, you obviously developed over all these years. What's your writing process like? How do you come up with lyrics first? Do you come up with music first? And what is some of your inspiration? I know I got about 3 or 4 questions in there.
But. Yeah, I don't remember the last question, so I answer that one first and we'll go back.
Yeah.
The writing process, I write very different. I think I write like, a Hollywood writer. And I'm talking from a music standpoint. When you make a film and you take a scene, and I'm a guy that's got to compose for films where I'll get a film or a cut, it'll be a final cut, but it's still not color corrected. It's not done yet. And that's my template to that in the script to write music for that scene. And so I've learned how to be descriptive with music like that. And so when it comes to Ironwrath, or even my writing process, I've always looked at it like, okay, like in my solo career, what would look cool? What would be like a great song? And what would it look like? What would you see? What kind of drumming? What would you see on the screen? And then, okay, that sounds cool. So now I go and write that song that makes sense for the visual and the emotional attachment to what doesn't exist. For the Ironwrath, what we basically did is we broke down the concept. What is Ironwrath? What is Ironwrath saying? We always wanted to we really wanted to do a concept album that was going to be, there would be an album, but then there would be another album that would be a concept with actors and everything that would string it all together, very much like The Wall, but more, make more sense, be more together.
Cohesive.
You can follow, cohesive, you can follow the story. And as we started going down that road, we broke it out, wrote it all out, a timeline, first actor, like you would a film, a screenplay. I mean, it's all strategically engineered from that level and above. So once we had that structure of how things move, what the first act is, what the second act is, what the third act is, how it moves, then, okay, what do those songs sound like? We already had songs that would work. And at that time, we decided, let's not do the whole Ironwrath, bring back songs that people don't even know. We have one song that got out there, The Stranger, and it's not a great representation of what we were trying to do. That's the first song we wrote as Ironwrath. That's the first song. Wow. So it has a special meaning, but it just doesn't have a good chorus. It's not, lyrically, it's not good. So we structured everything new, more modern, reverse engineered that. What does that mean vocally? What does that mean guitar-wise? My drumming's always been so unique. I don't really, I think, apply anywhere. I kind of do what I do.
Yeah.
Like a Phil Collins, he's
Right.
Barry Bozio. They just kind of do what they do.
Yeah.
But I did apply a lot of modern drumming as well. But we reverse engineered everything. Then we structurally drew it on. I still got everything upstairs, like all the paperwork and all the stuff. And
That'd be cool to see. Yeah.
I got something cool I'm gonna show you, man. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll show you something cool in a minute.
Sure.
Remind me. And that's how we wrote Ironwrath. But we decided, well, and we got it. Then we said, you know what? When we release this, we're getting too far ahead of ourselves, I think. Because concept albums are, when you're established and you're that band like Pink Floyd, then it's like, cool, they're doing a concept. Oh, you get excited. Yeah. Who's Ironwrath? Concept album? It's like, it may be too much. So we took the songs that we wrote as a concept and we arranged them more like a record label would. Like what's going to grab you and work and this and that. Yeah. And then we thought we'll come back later and we'll rearrange it. But then I've always been trying to go, how can I construct what I've learned in my solo project? The idea of, I used to be able to take my solo project and go to some casino where I was headlining in front of 1,500 people and sell it out. Why? Because people knew who I were? No, most people there didn't know who I was. It was the show, the drum show, this imaginary of drum multicultural experience that's a mystic rhythm through life, right? It sold itself like a cover band saying we're an '80s experience. You're no longer selling your music; you're selling an experience. You're selling memories and reliving your teenage years. And so I think, how can I do that with Ironwrath? How can I bring something that converts us to a show, to where we're not looking for promoters to be on like an Immortal. So grateful to be there, but we don't really work there as well because the amount of effort we really need to dial in everything for the show. We got screens. We really need to be like a one-off in a situation where we have our writer met. Right. Plus, and plus financially, the old model is how many butts can you put in the seats, right? I mean, if a show like that, if you're paying everybody X amount of dollars, maybe you're $100,000 in a hole. Yeah. Well, how many tickets is that? You have to sell just to break even. Right. And if bands, you put a skillet in there, oh my God, they're selling out the place, or Disciple or something. But if you're not, then how do you do it? And then so that's the issue. How do you overcome that issue in today's world with no MTV and no radio? It's dead. In my opinion, it's dead. It's gone. Don't even go there. That's checkers. Yeah. So if you can make a show though that has a story and a reason and is not an ideology, but is has a handle on it, like Ironwrath is a patriotic Trans-Siberian Orchestra. That gives it to you in a line. We're a modern day Pink Floyd, a metal version of it. Right. So you go down those roads and it's like, that makes sense. And the show's about patriotism and family, faith, freedom.
The themes and values in your music are phenomenal, especially Master Storyteller. I have so much that I think appeals to that wider audience. So and it's a social, and then we deal with social and cultural issues that are really behind the sin. Yeah. What it's really about. It's really about good and evil, not evil taking on good, but evil trying to take what's good. Right. And so that's how Ironwrath approached everything, and then we filled in the blanks. Yeah. Everything is filled in the blanks based on that. And then so Master Storyteller, Ironwrath's Master Storyteller, that's the concept side. That's why all those little sounds at the ends of the songs that you hear on the album, they're cool, but when you see it in concert, it's like, oh, that's why that's there. Yeah. It all makes sense. Right. So the concept album is actually hidden within the album, which and that's how we did. So we went backwards and constructed everything, and it goes way deeper than that. But that in a basic thing, that's the concept behind it. And talk about, because we'll talk about your role as a filmmaker too, and that is a big component, as it says on my Ironwrath shirt you sent me somewhere today. The Cinematic Masters of Metal. That's your guys' moniker, kind of, and I love that. How did that film dimension? Because you've got a concert film. And I know there, at least on your website at one point, you guys were talking about a plan for, a bigger movie
Yes.
at some point down the road,
Yeah.
beyond that. But, how did that develop, and why did you decide to go? I know it probably ties in with the show aspect. And to be honest, I think I mentioned in my review of the Master Storyteller album, but you guys should be playing at the Sphere. I think you would be a perfect mix for that. But how did that concept come about, and how did the film idea develop?
Once again, it's a Pink Floyd thing. I mean, without getting into the history of the Wall,
Right.
Pink Floyd they were all of a sudden they were broke. They needed to come with an album like today. Everybody had spent their creative on solo albums. Roger had The Wall and Radio. I forgot his Radio Freaking, whatever his other album was.
Radio Chaos.
Yeah, Radio Chaos. And sitting in the wings, and he goes, "Look, if we need it now, we can use The Wall, but I need creative control. It's my solo project. But I'll give it to Floyd. I'll give it to you guys." And so that's what he did. And that was kind of how things got messy. But the idea behind it was threefold. One was to create an album that was a concept album. 2 was to turn that into a live performance that was like nothing anybody had ever seen. A concept album, a concept show, right? And then from there, take that and turn that into a feature film. And each one of those were a struggle and have their own, history behind it for hours. You can listen to the stories. So with Ironwrath, it was much the same. Once God got us on the track he was planning, it was like, okay, so we got this album. This can be a concept album, but let's. And then in there, I finally figured out, well, shoot, if we could make a movie that was, a bunch of stories, because it's Master Storyteller. So we put a bunch of stories together, like the album, and then but link it together with films, and go into the first act. I'm making a table book right now, dude. It's a show program. It's 60 pages long. I just got it finished upstairs. I showed the band last night, and it walks through the show.
Oh, nice.
First act, second act, prologue, epilogue. It's the whole thing, and it's very sparse, mostly pictures from the show. Yeah. It's beautiful. It's really cool, and we're gonna have it. Well, Lord willing, we're gonna have it at Immortal for purchase in there. It's really
fantastic.
Cool.
That'd
so,
be great.
but with that said, then so the goal was that. Then let's come up with the live show, which is the movie behind us. That took us like 2 years to get that and get everything together. And then once we were doing that, some people that saw it behind the scenes, they go, "You got to show this. You got to show this at churches. You got to show this at theaters." And thinking, it's a Music Odyssey. I mean, back in the day of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band or Pink Floyd, The Wall, Tommy with the Who.
Right.
That used to exist. I'm thinking, you know what? I think this could work.
Bring it
and
back.
So,
Yeah.
But when you start talking about streaming, you're talking legal. Yeah. Now you got to scrub. You have to own everything. You have to have your legal Bibles for it.
Yeah.
So that's where we are right now. We are in principal photography of replacing and reshooting some stuff so we own it.
Yeah.
And then and that's pretty much it. And then logging everything so we can continue to move forward.
Come with me and you'll be in a world of pure imagination. Take a look and you'll see into your imagination. We'll begin
we made a deal with a big distribution company. It's actually really big, but we're going to turn it down. I just think we could get bigger. I think we got the cards in our hands, and we can't just be hasty because you sign away a lot of rights.
Oh,
and
so true.
Ironwrath is we own everything. So, but yeah, so that's it. So it's the motto of Floyd. So we did the album. We completed it May 31st, 2023. We completed the movie, I think, around March of 2024. Our debut show was Immortal. And we are currently right now working on the streaming version, which we're going to look for a Netflix is our main place, Amazon Prime. We'll get it on one of those for sure. And for it, we're going to mix, the Master Storyteller will be mixed in Dolby Atmos, which would be kind of cool. Because, it's, there's a lot of, when we made the album, we not only, cinematic masters, but with the sound, when you go to a movie theater, the sound, the fidelity is huge.
Yeah.
When bands, especially metal bands, what you're shooting for is what's called a LUF. A LUF, like radio, you have to be at least 14 LUF. In other words, how compressed you are.
Gotcha.
And so there's the technical specs behind it.
Yeah.
And then your big bands, they can get up to around 6, 5, like who's got great compression, like a Disturbed. Disturbed is really, they're in the 6.5 world. But you got to look at it as a container. It can only hold so much stuff.
Right.
So when you start entering more frequency, you have to lose some. Some has to go.
Right.
And so for us, we chose, let's back down on the LUFS and put more frequency in. And more like, what Kanye does. So we use a lot of very low subs and in our music. That's why it's so big, especially if you listen to it on like really good. Like I got in-ears in my ears right now. These are from 64 Audio. These are $1,200 in-ears. They're unbelievable. So when you can listen to real speakers, you got this huge dynamic. And when you're in a studio, I don't know if you've ever had the pleasure, tell me, but if you're in a real mastering studio or a high-end recording studio, you're usually listening to the music on at least $25,000 speakers, if not $100,000 speakers.
Yes.
And when you're in that world, wow, you just don't understand until you're there.
The difference.
And it's like you're submerged in water, but it's
Exactly.
sound. And so, we've got to go into like just listening sessions, goofing around, like play this song, play that song, on like $100,000 speakers, and you start realizing like you listen to Disturbed or Korn. Who somebody would say their mix is incredible. They got all this low end. They don't have any low end. They don't have any low end on $100,000 speakers.
Right.
They don't. They push it because you have this mix of your mix has got to be good on a set of cheap earbuds. Right. Somebody listening on their phone. They're in their car, which is a great sound system, or they're on their home computer, which could be a lousy speaker on the computer, or they could have it set up nice like I have. So you have to kind of meet in the middle. And that's what those bands do, and the record labels do. It's the right choice. It's a smart choice because they meet everybody in the middle. We're going. We want to really go towards a person that's audiophile,
Yes.
And so and bands just to get that little spectrum to have that depth would be like Foreigner. The music was just like this. Somebody like a Kanye, just huge.
Yes.
Floyd was big.
Yes.
And a lot of bands you think were big weren't. They were small.
Right.
So we stretched it. And so, which is really cool. I don't know how I got on that subject.
That was fascinating. I love that. Well, I got to just say something. Master Storyteller was just such a great album. I love this album. I think I was telling you before we started recording here, but I'm really, lately, because I've had my favorite song changes all the time, but Tyranny right now is one that I'm really, really digging a lot. What for you in the writing of this album, do you have a favorite song off here? What? And tell me about your bandmates too a little bit. Sean, of course, we talked about briefly, but
well, let me talk about them real quick, and then I'll talk about lyrics. But Sean, love the guy. We're like brothers from another mother, man. Yeah. We just gel so well musically. We play our music styles really, bond well. Correctly. Yeah. And we both stay in our lanes, which everybody in the band puts a lot of trust in me.
Yeah.
and lets me steer the ship,
Yeah.
which I think is smart because of my background, but it's still not many bands want to do that. With that said, everybody contributes evenly here. Me, Steve, and Sean really do the writing. Steve's like one of my best friends. Just a great songwriter, really great performer. He really understands a lot more the business side, the image side, the Floyd isms and stuff like that. He's as much there as I am. Sean, thank God, comes more from the Slipknots, the Five Finger Death Punch, Kill Switch, and Engage. He's that guy,
Right.
which we kind of steer him away from that. But he having that modern stuff is what we apply to Wrath. So we
Yes.
take those isms that he's into and steer him in a way that's more. Ironwrath's about the chorus. It's about saying something we're saying and having a chorus that's just going to stick in your head.
Yeah.
If we don't have that, we don't have anything.
Right.
So that is the key. And we oftentimes I'll ask Sean, hey, I can't get there vocally on this chorus. Can we just reduce, these chords? I'm Alive was one of them. Master Storyteller,
Yeah.
the chorus.
Yeah.
He had this great guitar hook. It was just killer. I wrote the lyrics 3 times to that chorus. It never takes me that long. And I couldn't get it right. It was good, but it wasn't magic yet.
Yeah.
And I knew it. And you got to trust that gut. And we push. We always go that extra 10 feet, 20 feet, 100 feet. We go as far as we can to make sure we're right and make sure it's there.
Yeah.
I said, can you just give me these 2 chords, like 45-minute discussion.
Right.
And he fought for his chords, and rightfully so, because they were just beautiful. He's such a good guitarist.
Yeah.
One of the best out there, in my opinion.
He's incredible.
But
oh my gosh.
I said, I need it for vocal. I said, just give it to me, man, and see what I can do. And so he goes, all right. So we just put blah, 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 after da-da, chicka, 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 that part's jamming. And he had some other stuff. It was dope, but it just didn't work vocally.
Right.
But he gave me that blah, 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 and it's just like, bam, master, and it just came together. So we work. Everyone works really good together. Noe is fantastic. He's greener than green, man. This is for his band.
Oh, it is. I didn't realize.
Oh,
that.
he's getting schooled, and we're
And you
we're
remind
harsh.
him of it all the time.
Oh man, last night he had his interviews. Noe's kind of like, hey man, he's like 70 kid, and so his mic we were sound checking, and we do everything through in-ears. We run the show like it's for real, everything.
Yeah.
Like there's an audience, we do the whole show nonstop.
Right.
Got monitors, everything.
Yeah.
And so he's checking his mic, and it's not on because I got it soloed over here. So he's like, I can't hear my mic. And I go, I hear it. And Steve's like, yeah, I hear it great. And me and Steve were like messing with him. He's like, oh man. I said, no, Steve, check Noe's mic. So he goes over and checks it. I unmute it. It goes real. It comes on. And he's like looking like, I said, it sounds fine, Noe. So he gets back and I mute it again. And he's like, that's Steve. That's me. That's bad practice. And it really is. And that was one of the agreements with coming back doing Ironwrath is, look, if it's not fun, we stop doing it.
Right.
We push ourselves. I think we probably push ourselves harder than pretty much any band out there. I would bet a lot of money on it.
Yeah.
We work our butts off. I mean, in the jam room and when we're not jamming, we got big goals. But with that said, it's just a lot of fun. We enjoy it. It's just what it takes, and not takes for us. It's what the fans deserve.
Right.
The fans don't deserve second best. They deserve everything you got. If they're going to spend their money on an album, a shirt, a concert, whatever it is, man, you want to make sure that they get it and it meets their expectations. It's a purchase well worth buying. And it's very important to us in the band. So
I love that album. And the way you described the sound, this kind of mix of all those different bands and styles, I think is really cool. Because when I first approached it, I was kind of, I was coming off of a lot of old school metal and some speed metal and stuff too. And the first thing that struck me as the album was, it seemed a little slower compared to the speed metal stuff I'd just been listening to at that time. But then, as you mentioned, like those hooks, the choruses, it just kept sticking in my head afterwards. And then suddenly it's like it switched for me over to this modern sound that I love now. I just love it. It was a switch for me. It wasn't anything about your album. It was I had to make that adjustment. And now I love it. It is just such a great mix of styles and sounds and creativity.
It's very much a Floyd thing. Once again, Floyd's got that tempo. It's not fast. It's not
right.
But it's once you understand it, you almost transport into that world.
Exactly.
And that's what we tried to do here with the album, is just make it very scenic and just take the floor of sonic arrangement and just broaden it, and then take the production and make a terrain to where each song is a journey, lyrically and musically. In other words, if you listen to the first verse compared to the third verse, musically, they're not the same.
Right.
You know, there's always a build and an addition and a purpose and a reason. Yeah. And it's a different trip for sure, man. And but that was the goal, is to create something that you could get lost in. And I'm a firm believer in that. I think that's what creativity's for. Yeah. It's to take you somewhere else, you know, and forget about the bills of life and the garbage. And more than that, if you're going to take somebody to a visionary imaginarium, then why not say something worth saying? Why not challenge them? Why not, you know, take the gloves off and be salt of the earth, right? So
I love that whole idea down the rabbit hole of imagination. I love the way that you all use that conceptually and visually. Is really cool.
It's on its head, because before Alice went from reality to a wonderland, we're going from a crazy wonderland of lies to down a rabbit hole to remind you about reality. Yeah, which is the opposite. Yeah. That's the world we live in.
That's right. Well, I want to ask just briefly before we get to a few things about filmmaking yet. But let's bring back in the faith aspect of this. You know, how do you personally and how do you guys as a band too strive to really, you know, integrate your faith? I mean, there's some obvious things, obviously lyrics, things like that, but how is that faith such a part of what y'all are doing now?
I think faith is a part of life. And what I mean by that, we were created by him, for him, through him. That's what it says in Colossians. We exist for that reason. The opposition is, a moron that, thought violence and lying was the way to go and took a third of the angels with them and wants to corrupt the human race that God created in his own image. So that's the truth. That's the reality. And so Ironwrath wants to address that. The album is broken into three constructs: faith, freedom, and family. And family would be stuff like best part of me, one, imagine a world, etc. Then freedom would be songs like, of course, Tyranny, Bad Lies. Not really the song Freedom, though it can be viewed that way. Right. And we really want, we purposely do dual or try levels to what's there. Yeah. But we wanted to deal with a third of the album dealing with personal issues, a third of the album dealing with just, what's going, the social and cultural issues of the world. Mm-hmm. And we wanted to take a third of the album and talk, about the Master Storyteller. And,
well, that patriotic element really stands out for me, and maybe because I'm drawn to that too. But of course, I see that in a lot of y'all's, your T-shirts and merchandise and things like that play off of Master Storyteller themes. I really like that. I think that's really cool. Have you had a good response to that, especially with the way recent politics and things like that have gone?
Yeah, I mean, it's so timely. I mean, Ironwrath's lyrics are literally ripped right out of today's headlines, even though they were written two years ago, right?
Right.
But it's kind of like when we were talking off the air. I think a lot of bands have become cliche.
Yeah.
And they might even address politics, but it's done in such a cliche, it doesn't really make sense. It doesn't really hit home. Yeah. But when you look at the lies that have gone on, and remember that word lies, who's the father of lies? Satan. And so, you can say Satan's come to kill and steal and destroy. John 10:10, right? But how does he do it? What are the means he's doing it through? And you can give generic answers like drugs, I don't know, greed or whatever.
Right.
But if you really start breaking it down, you start look at the social construct of government. I mean, look at what Sodom and Gomorrah was doing before God judged them. Look at the Asher poles that would rise up through the kings when you read Samuel to, the kings, and
Right.
and a good guy would come in and it would change society, and then it would, once the bad king came in, and it's to interpret the bad king as not somebody. Interpret the whole thing the same. A bad king is somebody who's opposed to God, somebody who takes the word of God and the relationship with God and says no, thank you. That's what makes them bad. And you read about that in Romans chapter 1, verse 18 through 26. And then if you take a good king, oftentimes it's somebody who acknowledges God's word, acknowledges him as God. So when society you see them wanting to cut body parts off of kids, and the transgender movement, and the racial BS, the media,
Pushes.
and it all comes from the line that Satan's come to kill, steal, and destroy. That's how he's doing it. That's how he's brainwashing. And maybe through these hierarchy ideas of MK Ultra and all these programs, the CIA and stuff like that they're implementing, and ideas and concepts. But the goal is to extinguish America or America people.
Right.
And so to me, it goes back to the Bible. If you put God first and you put your fellow man second, all that tyranny goes away.
Yeah.
So tyranny, though it's talking about today in the politics, behind it is the spiritual aspect of it. But we're seeing the results, like during the pandemic, the scamdemic, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, exactly.
When
So
remember, they almost passed that vaccine passport on your phone to where you couldn't go into a restaurant unless you could prove
Right.
that you were vaccinated. Now we're finding out through the RNA, people are dying left and right way more than back then.
Fed a bed of lies. Yeah.
Which is what Bill Gates said, right?
Yeah.
We're trying to, wipe out the population. There's too many people.
Exactly.
And they do. They want to take out, you could go to I think it's the World Economic Forum.
Yeah.
They talk about that they want to, by 2045, eliminate, I think it's 90 or 95% of the population. I mean, Thanos, the bad guy from the Avengers, only wanted 50%.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, they're talking about this stuff out loud, and people are not, waking up to it. So Ironwrath, we're going to be Ironwrath. We've come to start war, with the sin and tyranny of the world. That's what we're doing.
Spiritual
So
warfare.
we're not being cliche. We're approaching it like right out of the headlines and making points on that. We're not telling you what you should do, but we're making points of if you don't do what they say and take their narrative, they're going to take your life, whether it's your work, whether it's who you are as a person, or whether they take you down.
Right.
It's there's a bunch of meanings, and so I think Ironwrath is just not cliche. We're hitting the nail on the head in a way that it's the world around you. And that's what the film deals with. It really is a deep dive into the world around us and the issues that we're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. And we're not telling you have to approach it from a spiritual construct, but throughout this thing, we're saying, thy shall return. Look, God, Jesus is real. I don't believe in fairy tales.
Right.
I have a brow of, tooth and nails. My faith sways the balance scale, and I'll proclaim his name, right? We approach these things where it's like talking, and some else that Ironwrath does that's very unique, and very few bands do this. Floyd did it, Queensryche did a little bit, but a lot of songs are sang from the first person, as though he was a person in a film and giving a dialogue, compared to singing where I'm telling you, I'm talking to you or talking at you. Ironwrath really comes at it like, hey you, don't leave me here, which is 100% a Floyd thing, but it's still that breaking that fourth wall and talking to somebody.
Exactly.
And yeah, so it's very
I love that.
important.
I love that Ironwrath. You're really meeting the culture where they're at with your
Correct.
message. You're really trying, but you're taking that spiritual message and just kind of confronting things straightforward.
Correct.
Like you said, not cliche, not trying to gloss over things. It's like, hey, this is where it is, and the listener has, or the viewer in the case of your film media, has the opportunity to either wake up to the call and pay attention, or just continue to kind of pull the wool over their eyes.
Yeah.
But I love that. That's fantastic. I want to talk quickly, at least hit upon a little bit of your filmmaking stuff. I know Master Storyteller, of course, is part of that. But one thing I noticed, I had my son do some research for me on you, and just one of the things that did come up was, of course, that you, I believe, directed a music video for Les Carlsen, the River music video.
Yeah.
Was Les somebody you knew? Is that somebody you worked with? I know you've done a lot of music videos, but how's that process been for you?
Oh, man, I love Les. Les is a good friend of mine. Joyce, she's a gun. Yeah, they're great people. Always was a fan of Blood Good.
Me too.
And, Les has ran into me on my solo career. We played with them back in the day with Ironwrath, with Blood Good. So we knew each other, and we kindled a relationship, and Ironwrath was going, and I just said, hey, let's do a music video with you, man.
Yeah.
It's just something that I wanted to do with him, and God put it on my heart. So, I said, he was coming out. He came out with his new album. I said, let's look, and I said, this is a song. If we do one, I could do something with this song. These other songs, it would be when you deal with someone like me, you really want to do. I want to tell a story. I want to do something that's going to impact. Yeah. I don't want to just show the rock and roll people just playing in front of the camera. Right. I don't think that does much.
Right.
I just don't. So I think a lot of the songs lended more towards that, or you want to do a big live concert-ish type video.
Right.
But that River, I knew I could do something with. Yeah. And so we planned it out. I think that was a 5-day shoot.
Okay.
Maybe 4-day shoot. We got all the locations, and they came down, and we shot his daughter in the studio here, and then we shot the other stuff, the bridge, and which shows up in Master Storyteller. We shot a scene at that bridge as well.
Oh yeah,
and
that's right.
So that's we put it all together, and they gave me free reign.
Yeah,
and then not having a lot of money to do this at all, we had to pull it together. So I came up with the concept of the flowers and stuff coming to life, and just being able to, because videos are really a tone, but there needs to be a subtext. And so, I wrote the whole script and the story, and he loved it. And then we went out and shot it, edited it, and we made I'll tell you what's a cool one. There's another version out there. I think it's called the theatrical. And what that is, it's a 10-minute version. And it has this kind of intro that I did, and where I had him do a voiceover. I wrote a voiceover, and he did this voiceover. Mm-hmm. I didn't write it all because he talked from the heart, talking about what River meant to him. And so it gives this whole insight, and then it goes into the thing, and at the end it's got RTCs, and which is kind of a cool version. It's out there. It's on his YouTube channel.
Okay, I'll have to check that one out for sure. I'll put a link in the description down below too.
I'm going to grab something right here. What I have, I just found it the other day. It's a lyric book from back in the day with Ironwrath.
Oh, nice.
Like back in '89, when we wrote the lyrics.
Yeah. Oh, that would be sweet.
And nobody's seen this.
I would love to see that. That would be so cool. Like a notebook?
There it is.
All right.
Yeah. All right, so I'll show you this first. So this is back. Ironwrath, see if we see it real good.
Oh, there's I can see the logo. Oh,
hand
yes.
Drawn.
The original logo. Oh, and this is the 2-inch?
2-inch. This was done in Rick Thompson's studio.
Wow.
Look at that. Good.
Oh, sweet.
Back in the day. Yeah, so we got, I think, 4 songs. This one's got Love Will Bound, which I ended up doing on my solo project.
Yeah.
And then I forgot the other ones in there. Babylon is in there, which is now is 1.
Yeah.
And then 2 Sides, which is Tyranny. Let me change it. So you look in here. All right, so I'm gonna take these off.
Yeah.
I want to look cool. No, I'm gonna look like.
You always look cool. Yeah.
So this is, yeah, man. So this is like all the lyrics from back in the day.
Let's see here. Oh man, so this is
So, you see the Master, like Death March is on there.
yeah, pull it back a little bit. It's a little too close. Maybe yeah, maybe I think it's focusing. There we go. That's a little better. Oh, nice. Okay.
Solitary, Freedom. Freedom is on there.
Yeah.
Masquerade's on there. I don't see Master Storyteller, but Master Storyteller was called something else back then.
Okay.
So I don't
Oh,
remember what
that's
it's
cool.
called. To me, we call Crossroads. That was on the EPK. But yeah, this is all whatever. And then you go through here, and it's got the lyrics. The writings of Ironwrath. There's two sides to every story. This is now,
There we
this
go.
is now Tyranny.
Oh.
But you see the first line. Do you remember?
Yes.
That's still there.
Oh man.
Do you remember the blood-red skies as we held the fortress, infiltrating their lies, but in secret? I can't read it.
Can't
But
see
anyways,
that.
it's all there.
That's really cool.
But yeah.
Oh my gosh. So do you handwrite your stuff, or do you sit down and type like this?
Now I type.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's all Freedom, Red Rain, it's Crossroads. It's all
That is really cool.
it's all crazy. It's all in here, man. I found this the other day. I'm like, oh wow.
I love that. Oh,
Yeah.
Where do you get a lot of your inspiration from as a creative?
That's a great question. I'm going to go back to rock and roll mode.
Yeah.
You know, I think what I said earlier, you gotta, if you're gonna say something, it's got to be worth saying.
Yeah.
So, I really try to think about stuff that, if we're gonna write something, what would be an issue that would touch someone's heart? What is something that would say something to somebody? Like Ironwrath Master Storyteller was a concept album. It was all structured out, but when we got into the best part of me, that was written as a song because I thought in the concert, if you keep bumping the roof, with doing like your powerful numbers or whatever, where do you go? Yeah. You have to reset. So I thought if we put the instruments down, went up front stage on acoustics and played that number in a very silhouetted thing to a beautiful movie, it's going to reset everything.
Yeah.
And it will be a great dynamic to the show. And so then you go, well, what do we talk about? What would be something that would mean something to somebody? I thought, well, the imprint people leave on you when they pass, the meaning. Like on every album, I always thank my grandpa, Walter Becker, because he meant so much to me. And he stays with me even 30 years later. I'm still thanking him and thinking about him.
And he's the one responsible for taking you to church way back at the beginning.
Yeah, man. He also allowed me to beat on drums, man.
Yeah.
When nobody else would. He helped me buy my first drum set. And so I hang on to those things. And they make you a better person. I thought there's something right there that somebody could relate to, that could mean something, and then just trying to come up with the right syllables and the meaning to really tell. It's really hard to tell that type of story with just very few. There's like, I think 2 verses or something like that.
Yeah.
So you figure it out. But
Right.
so that's really how I write more than anything. I don't just get inspired and start writing.
Yeah.
I just don't. I look at what needs to be written, and I write it like I would if somebody was hiring me to write a screenplay, or if somebody was hiring me to compose a film. I just write it from that aspect. And actually, the best part of me is I actually did write all the music to that as well.
Tell me quickly, what's the future of Ironwrath? I know that there's a vinyl release coming out.
Yeah.
And probably by the time this recording is made available, it will be available for pre-order. Is that correct?
It will be available pre-order through Girder Music, Girder Records. Gary Hayes, Greg Hayes, approached us, and it made sense. It's a double vinyl
of Master Storyteller, right?
Master Storyteller. It's very, very cool. The artwork is very, very Floyd. It's very Ironwrath. It's we really wanted to do that. We didn't want to put a bunch of text in there, but what we did is we put a QR code in a link, and there you'll have not just all the credits, all the lyrics, but we're also making there'll be like a 5-minute documentary on the making of Master Storyteller to really, go depth. And there's going to be all kinds of surprises. We're going to make some special screensavers for the album that will be you'll have to have a code to enter to get them. I just finished last night. I was up to like 2 in the morning. There's going to be a poster for the first 100 pre-orders. The poster's dope, man.
I'm going to be one of those first 100, that's for sure.
It's really, really cool, man. And so we're very excited about that. One album's red, one album's blue, red pill, blue pill. There's a lot there. It's really cool, especially when we can blow our artwork up big. Yeah. So very excited about the vinyl. And the drop date will be June 20th. The album will be out June 20th.
Excellent. I look forward to picking that up for sure, and I'll do a review of that as well once I get my copy. The other thing you mentioned, of course, some of the stuff, if join to be a member of Ironwrath's website, subscription service, I guess, kind of.
Oh, the VIP.
The VIP. Tell me a little bit about that.
Nobody's ever asked it. Thanks for that.
Sure.
The VIP is made for fans. There's probably close to 7 hours of content on there. Wow. Like for a filmmaker, the whole process of The Best Part of Me, there's a vlog. Yeah. There's probably 20 videos, and it's all like in real time. So you see things that we tried, didn't work in the pre-production, trying to find locations, actors dropping out. You get the whole process, the whole creative process. A lot of it's all kind of phone done because I'm driving in the car, I'm doing this, and some of it's on locations, looking at stuff, working with the actors. It's just things like that. You got a lot of bloopers. Like when Les was here, we did for The Best Part of Me. There's that scene where he's in the bed when he's like dreaming. We did a whole blooper reel of like a skit. It's a lot of fun. And then there's like up close and personal. In the video world, you have that. Like all these different things you can watch and alternate versions of The Best Part of Me. There's be vignettes coming on the making of different videos.
Nice peek behind the scenes of Ironwrath.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Then you got up close and personal, like top 10 favorite guitarist from Sean, or Steve talking about movies, or Noe talking about what's his favorite song. Like we're doing a dump tomorrow. What's his favorite Ironwrath song to play and why? Then we have also like playthroughs. So it'd be like me playing Die Shall Return, just like a 4-camera setup live. Sean playing like Masquerade by himself. So you got like performances. You got gear room talking about the gear, talking about the setups, talking about percussion, talking about all different stuff. You have Secrets to the Realm, which is kind of like a CIA computer hack by the name of White Rabbit that takes you down all these conspiracies he's found on the Ironwrath website, which is a lot of fun. You got exclusive pictures that are all backstage stuff for Ironwrath. You got the Ironwrath Theater, where you can actually watch the feature film, Ironwrath's Master Storyteller, which is what we're working on. It's not the finished version, but it's more the standalone than what you see behind us. Okay. Man, there's so much there, man. And then VIP T-shirts. There's exclusive T-shirts you can only get on the VIP, like Follow the White Rabbit. We have there's a couple on there and they say right on there, exclusive VIP. Yeah. It's with the big VIP on the back. It's a pretty cool thing. $7.77 a month.
That's a steal of a deal.
Well, for us, it's like this. Yeah. A lot of bands, and I'm not putting anybody down. I'm just talking. Yeah. A lot of people do Patreons and give us money and do this and do that, and you can donate, help us, or GoFundMe for our album. Right. We just don't do that. Paul, he went out and built tents, so he wasn't a burden to anybody. We don't ever want to be a burden to our fans. Yeah. We're here to be servants to the fans. Yeah. So for us, it's all about the fans, everything, and so, but we still need money to do things. So why not create something that's fun for the fans? It's a service, but with there you get this whole backstage, because Ironwrath really does keep a cloak of personification for the public. If a Facebook post, you don't see shots from the jam room. I mean, Sean posts stuff he shouldn't all the time, and we're on him. But really, Ironwrath's all business. It's like a record label.
Yeah.
Everything is very personified. Where the VIP, you want to get to know the band? Here you go. I mean, and one of my favorites is in there, we have what's called a fly on the wall. And the fly on the wall is just basically you put a camera up somewhere and you let it run for 20 minutes. So that's like either a band meeting with our manager or we're doing like an interview, like the setup for the interview, or like when Les came down for the best part of me and we're like, powwowing and just stuff like that, or working on a script, all that stuff. It's just Sean working on visual effects. It's just a fly on the wall. You just sit there and, you kind of just watch the process of like a lot of these things and the way it goes. So, I mean, it's just hours and hours and hours of stuff. And people love it, man. They really dig in. And for us, it helps. That money that we get from that pays for the website, pays for expenses that it costs to run Ironwrath, because it's a business, and we don't lowball stuff. Like even like the T-shirt you got on, that's a high quality. We pay a lot more money for that T-shirt than what we could. We could get a lot cheaper T-shirt and make more money and even lower the price a little bit, by doing that. But it wouldn't be quality.
Right.
And it's
this
just
is a good quality one. Definitely.
We want everybody to have the best of the best. We're trying to make a lifestyle brand here,
Right.
and make it fun for everybody, but put out quality stuff that matters. So yeah, that's what the VIP is. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of work. Oh my God.
I bet.
When I get off here, I got to finish stuff with Girder, but then I'm back on VIP.
VIP,
and it's a lot of work,
I
man.
can't believe I haven't signed up yet. I need to sign up for that for sure, because I've known about it and I haven't gotten around to it. So I'm going to make that a point, and I'll put a link in the description down below for anybody else that's interested, wants to go sign up for that VIP, because I think that is just a cool part of what Ironwrath is offering too. What's the future? I mean, I know y'all are playing Immortal Fest on July 27th, I believe.
July 27th, man, me and Sean got a guitar clinic in Las Vegas for Rip City Guitars, opening up, I think, March 15th.
Yeah.
In Las Vegas, and we'll be out there. We'll probably perform a couple of Ironwrath songs, just me and him. But we'll be doing some solos, and which is fun. Sean's a great player. I'm having to dust my solo off and get in shape, man. I get a little winded. But we're gonna be adding that to the Master Storyteller show as well. A piece
Fantastic.
that's gonna be, which is really cool. Outside that, Immortal coming up, which we're really excited. The last time we played Immortal, we played an abbreviated version of our show.
Yeah.
This one will be the full show.
Okay.
So we're excited about that. It's very. And also, I don't think people knew what to expect. They didn't know who we were,
Right.
and they didn't know what to expect. Now people are going, okay.
Word is spreading.
I know what's coming. So we're excited about that. Really, our manager, we're dealing with some personal issues I won't get into, but out of our control and out of their control. But Nixon Management, we're going to be, we're really looking to get like a Vegas residency is what we're shooting for with Ironwrath Master Storyteller, and try to get this into PACs, Performing Arts Centers, because those are funded by the city,
Right.
and they're really about education, the arts, and Ironwrath is very patriotic. So it's a good show for stuff like that. So we want to get to where we can go and really do a show with our lights programmed and our crew to really do the top-notch show that this is, really is. It just takes a little bit more of that team to put it on rather than when you roll into an Immortal, which they do a fantastic job. And Steve on the board was incredible. Dave, I love the guy, man, that runs the stuff at BMI. Such a sweetheart, so talented. But there's just not time. If they could donate a whole day to us, we could really, with the lights and really dial stuff in. So anyways, there's that. And then, of course, we're slaving away at this, trying to get the Master Storyteller, Ironwrath Master Storyteller for streaming.
Yeah.
And then outside of that, I mean, there's always stuff on the table. Like I said, we just finished the table book for Ironwrath. I got some feature films that I'm looking forward to getting made here pretty soon. I really want to keep my focus on Ironwrath. I will be probably putting out my Echoes of Silence concert. I just finished the Redux version. I'll send it to you so you can check it out.
I would love that.
And we'll be hopefully getting that on streaming somewhere. I'm not looking to blow my solo project back up. I'm really focused on Ironwrath right now.
That's fantastic, man. Well, y'all have some great stuff going on. Very exciting. Love the band. Love your work, CG. You guys are just phenomenally talented. Great men of faith. Love what you're doing. Just keep doing it. I'll be here to support y'all as much as I can on an ongoing basis, and hope to make it to Immortal Fest to see y'all.
Yeah,
there
man.
for sure.
Good. It'd be great seeing you, man.
Last question I got for you, though.
Yes, sir.
Why do you do what you do? Why do you love still doing this? What is it that keeps you going each and every day? Whether it's Ironwrath, music, drumming, filmmaking, teaching, any number of things you do, speaking engagements. I know you do some of that too.
Yeah.
What is it? I know there was a quote, I think it was on your own personal website about, you're a storyteller, right?
Yeah.
And whether it's, regardless of the medium, I think you mentioned.
Yeah.
You like being
people
that
look at
storyteller.
you like a lot of people look at me like, oh man, she does everything, I really don't. I kind of just do one thing.
Yeah.
I just know how to do it in different mediums.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's I think that question would be better for Jesus, man. I mean, he programs us, right?
Yeah.
He creates us for a plan and purpose, and somebody's a hand, somebody's a foot, somebody's a knee. We're all part of the body of Christ, and we all work together. It's an ecosystem. So, for me, I have this creativity in me, and I've been through the 30 years of honing the skills from 1990 to where we are now, which I guess is 25 years, not 30.
Yeah.
And I want people to know that we're here for a purpose, and the reason that purpose is to know God, and the society and the things, stand up for our country and the people that fight for this country. I think it's imperative. I think that's being a Christian. I think your words, having integrity, doing what you say, is being a Christian. I think the rubber needs to be on the road, like in James when he talks about your deed without actions is nothing at all.
Right.
And so for me, I think God's entwined what he's done. And I'll give you this, and this is a music thing, but it'll make the point. Yeah. I was playing in Palm Springs many years ago, 2004, so probably whatever that is, 20 years ago. And there's a little black man out in the audience, and I recognize him. It's Armando Peraza. Armando Peraza's in the Smithsonian. He's a legend. He used to play bongos for Santana. But he's one of the guys that brought Cuban music into America.
Yeah.
And he was a friend of mine when he was alive. And this was one of the first times I got to really meet him now. And the drummer didn't think it was him, and I said, that's him. I know it's him. And we went up, talked to him, and he was very, very nice, very complimentary to me.
Yeah.
Said some things I've never repeated, never will, because it was for me.
Yeah.
But in the process, I was nervous as heck, because this is a living legend.
Yeah.
And so I didn't know what to say, and I just go, hey, man, what do you think of Giovanni? And Giovanni is just that guy on congas that the best of the best are here, and he's up here. Mm-hmm. He's, it's just, he's that guy. He was a Michael Jordan of congas. And he looks at me. He goes, man, F Giovanni. And I'm thinking, whoa, what did I just do?
Right.
And he goes, Giovanni, blah, 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 blah. He goes, I was a revolutionary. I changed the way drums are played in America. That was me. Giovanni, blah, blah, blah. I'm just thinking, I'm just silent, right? He goes, let me tell you something. Music is not a competition. You are you. I'm me. Giovanni's Giovanni. Giovanni does what Giovanni does. That's what he's supposed to do. That's Giovanni. You're CG. You do what you do. Because if you don't do what you do, who's going to do it for you? So why do I do what I do? God's put me here to do what I do. Is it a bigger load than maybe some people carry? Maybe. But that's just a load God gave me to carry. And it's my passion. It's my inspiration. My goal is the same, is Christ-centered. I want people to know that, that they can have a relationship with Him, Jesus, and I want, people to know that the Bible is the living Word of God, and it will change your life. And it's not about what you do, but it's who you know. And by knowing that person and submitting that person, your life will change, and the do will become a quality, not a qualification. So I just do what I do because that's what God's put me here to do. And my goal is to see people know him, and I want to make people better with the talent, I have. And I don't know how much talent I got. I'm a hard worker, and I get away with it a lot. But that's the answer to the question.
Yeah, awesome, CG. Well, I think everyone watching will certainly agree. You're very talented, and you are.
Checks in the mail, man. Checks in the mail.
Yeah, you're a blessing to so many. I mean, y'all's music is a blessing. I love it. Again, great guys of faith. And thanks for being willing to live out your faith in such a public way, so that you inspire others as well, and look to Jesus, for the answers in our lives. So I appreciate that so much.
Well, we'll do this again sometime, and we'll just talk.
I would love to, because we barely scratched the surface, like on filmmaking and stuff. So yeah, there's so much more to do, but this probably seems like a logical spot to end it. So thanks for your time, CG, man. I so appreciate having you on, and it's just been a joy for me. Blessing.
Hey, man, I appreciate it, brother. Thank you so much.